Hello and welcome to Bounding into Comics. My name is John Trent. I'm the founder and editor-in-chief at Bounding into Comics. And today I've got a story about Batgirl, and it appears she's joining Gotham's version of Antifa. So Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, appears to team up with Gotham's version of Antifa in the upcoming giant-sized Batgirl number 50. Batgirl number 50 is the oversized final issue for the Batgirl series, from Cecil Castellucci, Emanuela Lupacchino, Marguerite Sauvage, and Anecki. So in an 8-page preview of the book released by DC Comics, it begins with Barbara Gordon and her father, Jim Gordon, burying James Gordon Jr. in the wake of the Joker War storyline. So just to kind of give you some context, in Batgirl number 45, it's revealed that James Gordon Jr. has a split personality, and he's been going around Gotham having red-headed women dress up as Batgirl and then killing them. Batgirl eventually tracks him down to a lighthouse where, in order to keep his shadow self at bay, he leaps off the top to his death. Jim Gordon arrives at the lighthouse just as his son leaps to his death, and as Batgirl attempts to save him, she fails to do so, and Jim Gordon believes Batgirl, not knowing she's Barbara Gordon, kills him and even attempts to arrest her. Following James Gordon's funeral, Barbara takes her dad to an old diner where the two have burgers and shakes. During their meal, Jim Gordon advocates for a complete overhaul of Gotham. He tells Babs, quote, "The city needs a complete overhaul ever since the Joker took over the town. Everywhere is run down. Bad elements like Batgirl need to be lanced. More police in the streets to combat the mayhem." To which Barbara responds, "A scorched earth policy isn't going to be helpful." Following this statement, Babs begins to completely ignore her dad, losing herself in her own thoughts before she finally slams her hands down on the table and shouts, "Dad, shut up!" Yep, she's really pissy at her dad, and can't even have a civil conversation, just completely ignoring him, and then tells him to shut up. She then goes on to state, "I work so hard to do what I do, and when you put down my efforts with hateful misconceptions about Gotham or its citizens, or even Batgirl, it hurts me." From Jim Gordon's point of view, it does look like that Batgirl threw James Gordon Jr. off the roof. It's kind of really interesting that he would assume that, though. I don't really know if I would buy that characterization, given the fact that he's seen how Batgirl has helped Gotham for so long, and then now he's just all of a sudden just going to be blinded by emotion from his son's death, a son that he knows has had troubles in the past. So I think it's kind of just a weird mischaracterization of the Jim Gordon character anyway. So it's just a weird conversation that doesn't really make any sense because the characters don't work. But it doesn't matter whether the characters work anymore. It's all about the message, and the message is telling your parents to shut up, and it doesn't matter what they think. We're doing it my way because I know what's best. And that's kind of what you get out of these few panels here. She gets up, like you can see here, she smashes her milkshake all over the table, and then she gets up and walks out. So she finally gets up and leaves the diner. As she begins walking through Gotham, she joins in with what appear to be Gotham's version of Antifa, as they are tearing down statues and appear to have been launching projectiles in a protest. It also appears they've taken over some kind of government building. It could be a courthouse or something. It's unclear. The preview doesn't say what it is. So as she begins to participate in these activities, we can read her inner monologue. She thinks to herself, quote, "The death of an era is an opportunity to get rid of the old and usher in something new, something better." That's what she's telling herself. I don't think that's what this comic shows, actually, as we'll see here. So she continues, "Take the time to re-examine our heroes and maybe find new ones. I don't know if these protests will actually stop the gentrification of these neighborhoods, but who's to say what the best way to bring out change is, and is there one right way to do it?" So the comic is implying that tearing down the statues and this takeover of this government building seems to be all about a gentrification of Gotham City, and actually trying to clean up the streets, maybe improve the streets, put in some new businesses where that could provide jobs. But apparently it's about gentrification. Look, you can even see here, leave the mom and pop stores alone. And then you have F your franchise. I don't know, like that's franchises are small businesses, so I'm not really sure what's going on there. They are mom and pop stores. This is just really interesting that you would have those two signs next to each other. It just shows the absolute ignorance of the people writing DC Comics today. But yeah, so you have these people, like they're tearing down a statue of some guy there. She's kind of walking past it. She's not actually pulling the statue down, but in the next panel here, you see where she says, "I became Batgirl in a whim, but once I donned the suit, there was no going back. It was a way to do some real good, but have I?" She's right there in the middle of this riot. You can see the cloud and dust and smoke going up in the background. She's locked arms with a bunch of people. They got grimaces on their faces. She's shouting. So she's definitely joined in. So she went from being a spectator walking by to joining in this riot and being part of what appears to be Gotham's version of Antifa. What's really interesting, this next panel is really interesting, or next page, shows police breaking up a protest at this government building. As the police line is advancing on the protesters and what appear to be rioters, Barbara Gordon is talking to a couple of citizens who say they are trying to rebuild their homes, but explain their homes have been condemned following the clown wars, so they can't really rebuild their homes because the government is preventing them from doing so. Gordon responds to them by telling them who she is and giving her card as part of Congresswoman Alejo's office. Her internal monologue reads, quote, "I chose to work for Congresswoman Alejo because I believe she could implement the changes that couldn't be made by being a bat or a cop." It's just really interesting. She's literally just handing out her card as, like, you see a police line advancing on these rioters who had stormed this government building. There looks like they're trying to push them back and assert order on this government building that had been taken over by these protesters that more than likely were violent. You see there's looks like there's like gas canisters have been deployed. It's unclear what side has deployed those. You see signs on the ground, but yeah, she's like there just handing her business card to these people in the middle of the police putting down the protester riot or whatever it is. It's unclear. So Barbara Gordon continues, "I've been listening to what Gotham needs my whole adult life. I've even put my body on the line for her." That indeed she has. She was brutally assaulted by the Joker in the Joker War storyline. So then you can see there's some people who appear to be cleaning up the mess now. She's still standing there with her, I don't know if she's got a sign or she's got something in her hand now. It's unclear what it is, but she's got it in her hand and she's not letting go of it. But you do see some people picking up signs in the background there, maybe trying to clean something up or salvage something. It's unclear. But then Barbara says in her internal monologue, "These people put it all on the line too, just in a smaller way. A tiny action can make a big difference. I need to ask myself, how can I be a real service to the people of Gotham in a way that intersects my two lives?" Yeah, did you catch that? Intersects my two lives. Haha, you know, like wink wink, get it? Intersects my two lives. But yeah, you see two policemen arresting someone, saying this guy put it on the line. It's unclear. This guy's probably a criminal. They don't tell you what he's done. You're just getting Barbara's point of view, and it doesn't seem like she knows what's going on, but you just see this guy being arrested, and she's saying he's putting it on the line. But what is he putting it on the line for? A life of crime? Usually Batgirl's against that. So it's an interesting way to say that. And then she's continuing to walk through the streets of Gotham that are supposed to have been ravaged by the clown wars in the panel above. But these look like non-condemned buildings here. They don't look pretty bad. I mean, you got some trash on the outside here, but I mean, that seems pretty normal to me. It doesn't seem like Gotham is that bad as to why these people would be storming a government building, committing crimes, but tearing down statues, and who knows what else they've been doing, because they don't really tell you. They want to make it ambiguous, but it's pretty clear they're pushing a political message in these 8 short pages. The preview ends with Barbara Gordon encountering Ryan Wilder living in her van with her plant. So Ryan Wilder is going to be the new Batwoman in the CW show. Supposed to be an original character for this show, but they are putting her in this new Batgirl comic before the show debuts. So her first appearance will actually be in this like Batgirl number 50. Gordon tells Wilder, quote, "Voting is a way to change things, Ryan. Let me know if you want help with housing." She then thinks to herself, "Have to remember to talk to Alejo about the homelessness and crisis and voter registration. As Barbara, that's one thing and one person I can change for the better." And you can see Ryan Wilder is flicking off Barbara Gordon and this other guy who was just trying to help her. They used a leaf to cover it up, but it's pretty clear that's what's going on. Interestingly enough, she says that she would vote Barbara's boss out. So that's kind of interesting that they would do this. I don't know if they realize what they're doing. They're trying to depict Barbara as a social activist who's trying to like help the people, and then you have Ryan Wilder saying like she's doing the absolute opposite and wants to vote her out. So this is kind of interesting that they would conclude the preview like that with all the social justice messaging, and then at the end kind of flip it. I don't know if they were meant to do that. My guess is that they didn't, and that's just kind of how it turns out in this preview, at least. So we'll find out what happens in the full issue, which is supposed to come out on October 27th. But yeah, it looks like Barbara Gordon is now an Antifa activist who she moonlights as an Antifa activist instead of Batgirl when she's not in Congress working for this Congresswoman Alejo. Very similarities to what we've seen in real life. They're basically just putting it in a comic now and trying to sell it that way. I don't think this. I mean, they're definitely trying to push a message with Barb's, but this last panel totally like just flips the script, and I don't know if they get it. So we'll see if this is actually the end of that part of the story in Batgirl number 50, or if there's like a little bit more. But yeah, just look at Barbara's face. She just is like, whoa, so sad. Like it's like a sad emoji, and that's really what this preview is. It's super sad, super cringe, and I don't know anyone who would actually. I mean, I guess people are going to go buy it because they're putting Ryan Wilder in it. But honestly, the storytelling that I'm seeing here is just absolute garbage. I don't need to buy a comic to get this story. I can watch it on the news, and I don't want to do that. That's just not interesting to me. I don't know why we want to have the news in my comic. That's just not something I'd be interested in. But that looks like what DC Comics is selling you with Batgirl number 50. So let me know what you think. Do you think that this is depicting Barbara Gordon joining up with Antifa? Or do you think she's just kind of extending her social activism into this? I mean, this panel here where she's joining up with them, it totally looks like she's joining Antifa. So just let me know what you think of DC Comics having Barbara Gordon becoming a member of Antifa. My name is John Trent, and you've been watching Bounding into Comics. I'll have another video for you tomorrow.